Hello, and once again, welcome to the 2020 Teen Arts Leadership Summit. My name is Zach. I'm also a member of the Teen Arts Committee, and I will be one of your Zoom moderators for this afternoon. This year, we are joining Chicago in celebrating the Year of Chicago Music, and our keynote speaker today is a rising star in the classical music industry. She began her musical studies on violin and switched to cello at age 4, studying at her mother's music school, the Hyde Park Suzuki Institute. Her recording of the first movement of the Saint-Saëns Cello Concerto at age 10 has over 100,000 views on YouTube and over 15 million views on Facebook. In 2017, at age 15, she was named the first place laureate of the Sphinx Competition's junior division. Last summer, I had the privilege of watching her make her solo debut with the Chicago Symphony Orchestra at the Ravinia Festival in Highland Park. Now 17, this rising sophomore at the Colburn Conservatory of Music is preparing for a career on the world stage. It is my honor to welcome the 2020 Teen Arts Leadership Summit keynote speaker, Ifetayo Ali.
Hi everyone, I don't know if you can hear me. Okay, yeah, you can hear me. Hi everyone, I'm gonna play a little bit first before I start talking, and then yeah, I'll get all into it afterwards. closer so I can see my notes. I don't know if that was really loud or not, so I'm sorry. But just to start, if you have any questions, make sure to send them in using the Q&A feature, and I will be answering them after I'm done rambling for a little bit. I go down. Well, hi everyone. As you heard before, my name is Ifetayo Ali. I hope you enjoyed my unaccompanied Bach cello suite 3 in C major, prelude. It's a long title. But yeah, my name is Ifetayo Ali. I'm 17. I am originally from Chicago, and I am currently a sophomore at the Colburn School in Los Angeles, where I study with the amazing Clyde Greensmith. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with the school, it's a super small conservatory with around 120 people. It's a fairly new school. It's only been around since like 2003, so that means I am older than my school. But more about me. I come from a family of musicians. My great-grandmother was a musician. My aunt, my grandfather, my mother, basically everyone in my family is a musician, so I think it's safe to say I know a little bit about music. I had a little bit of trouble coming up with what I wanted to share with you today, especially now with everything that is unfortunately and fortunately going on in the world. But because this is a Teen Arts Leadership Summit, I thought it was appropriate to talk about how I've been finding my voice and learning how best to use it over the past few years. Now, of course, I can only really speak confidently on what I know, which is classical music, so that will be all I'm really talking about today. I'm grateful that I have a platform to be able to share my thoughts with the world, and I'm grateful to you guys for listening, so thank you. I guess I'll start with my background in classical music more in depth. As I mentioned before, my family has a long history of being musicians. My great-grandmother played the piano and organ. My grandfather plays the viola. My mother plays the violin. My aunt plays the cello. And both of my sisters play violin, viola, and piano. I think I covered everything. Okay. But my mother founded the Hyde Park Suzuki Institute in Chicago more than 20 years ago. It is a non-for-profit music school, and that is where I spent 99% of my time as a child. I'm just gonna move my mic closer just in case you guys can't hear me. There we go. But I would sit in her private lessons as a newborn until I could crawl away, really. I also attended summer music camps with my older sister from the womb until I was old enough to participate myself. I started actually playing an instrument at 2 years old, and that was the violin. So yes, I had a teeny tiny little violin. At 4 years old, I added on the cello because my mother needed someone to help her start her cello program because her music school had just been piano and violin up until that point. At 5 years old, I dropped the violin and focused on the cello. At 6 years old, I added on the piano, but don't be fooled by how many years I've supposedly been playing piano. I'm not good at it at all. It's actually a required course at my school, and I do regret not practicing more when I was younger. But to get back to the point, I was fortunate and privileged enough to be raised in an environment where I was not necessarily a minority, which my mother did intentionally. Her music school was filled with people who looked like me, which, as you may or may not know, is fairly rare for the classical music industry. I also met a good portion of my friends at that music school. I spent all day playing in the hallways while listening to other children have their private lessons or group classes while waiting for mine. And on top of that, I was homeschooled up until college last year, so as a young child, I did not realize that the real classical music world was not as diverse as I thought. At about 10 years old, when every child wants to start choosing their own activities and be somewhat independent, not all of my friends wanted to continue with classical music seriously, which is fine. It's to be expected. Some went into ballet, others went into soccer, and there were so many other things. So most of my friends who I had grown up with and played music with for years started to leave the music school and find other hobbies. Now, this wasn't ever sad to me at the time because we were all still within like the same neighborhood and saw each other every day, all day, so it wasn't really a big change in my life. But because I had plans to be a soloist, I also left the music school, or the comfort of my music school. But I left so that I could study with Hans Jensen, a professor at Northwestern, known for producing high-level cellists. And I absolutely adored him. My mother would drive my sister and I an hour plus both ways to study at Northwestern. And as grateful as I am for that, and as much as I loved studying with Hans, it was then that I really started to notice the lack of Black representation in classical music. Not just within his studio, but at all performances, competitions, camps, etc. I also started to notice microaggressions here and there, but I rarely said anything because I didn't want to come off as difficult or ungrateful. The definition of microaggressions being indirect, subtle, or unintentional discrimination against members of a marginalized group. I have become very familiar with this word. Although I've had some of the most wonderful experiences in the classical music world, I have also had a few less than positive ones as well. Like I've had experiences at competitions where I would overhear parents telling their kids not to let that girl beat them. When I was probably 12 or 13, a lady said to me after a performance that she was glad I was playing cello instead of all that other stuff. And even at that young age, I could tell what she meant. There was no confusion with that. I used to constantly think that I was only winning competitions, even the screened ones, which is where you are performing behind a screen. The judges can't see you. They probably don't know your name. They don't know anything about you. But I used to think I was only winning competitions and getting the performances I was getting because I was Black. And not at all because I spent hours and hours practicing. In fact, someone at one of my last camps actually said that to me. I'm not going to say which one. To this day, I still have grown men and women trying to touch my hair. And most of the time, I don't even have any, so I don't get it. I don't really get the point, and unfortunately, since classical music is frequently seen as a very elitist European activity, whenever I would meet or befriend Black people outside of my regular community, I would always receive the, "Why are you trying to be white?" or the "You sound white" comments. Now again, I have had mostly wonderful experiences, so it hasn't been all bad, I promise you. But to lead into a more positive side of my life story, at 12 years old, I attended the Sings Performance Academy, or SPA, which is a 2-week summer intensive program for Black and Latinx classical musicians. And that was really the first time in a while I had been surrounded by people who not only looked like me, but who had experiences like mine, and who weren't shocked that a little Black girl could excel at a classical instrument. I wondered, why can't it be like this wherever I go? In 2016, at the age of 13, I competed in the Sings competition, which is a national competition for Black and Latinx musicians based in Detroit, and I received second place. The following year, I competed again and won first place. After this win, it really kicked in for me that whether I liked it or not, I was becoming a leader and a role model in my community. I had been watching my mother lead and be an advocate for Black musicians and musicians of color for the last 13 or 14 years, and now it was my turn to be a leader. I realized that my words now had value, and just by showing up, I was making a difference. I started getting requests to do interviews, and in my interviews, I would always be asked, how can we make classical music more diverse? Or how do we get more young people? Don't quote me on this, but in my opinion, that's just code for Black people. But how do we get more young people into the concert halls? Now, because I was 13 or 14 at the time, I had not put a whole lot of thought into this question. And of course, I was happy they were asking the question, but I always wondered, why are they only asking me these questions? Why aren't my white or Asian peers not being asked about how they want to help diversify classical music? But I just copied whatever I heard my mom say because I did not know the answer. And I still don't know the answer because it is a result of systemic racism and a lack of funding. Let's just be clear. But as a result of winning the competition, I got the opportunity to travel around the United States and perform with some of the top orchestras in the world, such as the Chicago Symphony Orchestra, the Detroit Symphony Orchestra, New World Symphony in Miami, and many more. It was here that I found a new love for teaching, influencing, and performing as a whole, but there's a special place in my heart for performing in schools and in communities, not just in concert halls, which are not typically accessible to everyone. I could go to places like Wilmington, North Carolina, and travel from school to school, teaching children ranging from kindergarten, high school, the joys of classical music, and just how versatile the cello is, or really in any instrument. My favorite part is when little kids come with me afterwards, all excited to tell me what piece they're working on, and they're kind of shy, so like behind their parents. And the questions I get from kindergartners, adorable. But I now have online private students, and I have developed a real love for teaching. Also, because of social media and technology, I am able to share my music and knowledge with anyone, anywhere, like this. Because I'm fortunate enough to have a small platform, I try my best to pass on any knowledge that I have received. My ultimate goal is that when you think of a classical musician, you don't just think of one person. You think of a wide range of faces and backgrounds, because that is what makes each musician special and every performance unique, which is what we want. I know for at least my lifetime, I will never just be a cellist. I will always be a Black cellist. And that is something I have had to come to terms with, and that is something I am okay with. I don't regret choosing this career path whatsoever. I wouldn't change anything. And I am happy that I am able to be someone who can help change the face of classical music. With organizations like Sphinx and Gateways who support musicians who are Latinx, Black, and are of African descent, I think we're definitely headed in the right direction. And I do suggest all of you search up Sphinx and Gateways for two wonderful resources for everybody. They are amazing. But music is one of the best things in my life, personally, and it has given me a sense of purpose and identity. Besides music being healing and a good way to express yourself, music can be used as a tool to get you where you want to be and give you experiences you may not have had otherwise. For example, recently I got to walk down a red carpet and perform in front of the Solange Knowles and her family at the Lena Horne Awards in New York. Chances are I would not have had that opportunity without the cello. And I know I said I would only be discussing classical music today, but music as a whole can be a ticket into almost anything you want to do, like college scholarships. For the musicians who are watching this, even if you don't want to major in music, you can still audition at the college you're trying to go to for a music scholarship, and obviously that can be very helpful. And this is especially why I feel so strongly about not gatekeeping classical music, because these opportunities really are life-changing. So, now with all of that said, and this is kind of unrelated, I do want to emphasize that I'm a normal person. I just finished my freshman year of college at the Colburn School, despite this COVID-19 situation. And I like normal things like learning TikTok dances, listening to all music, not just classical, hanging with friends, and going to parties. I do have other interests like computer science and acting as well. I have been told in the past that people have been afraid to talk to me, but I promise I love to talk, and if you ever see me in real life, please do come talk to me. But for the time being, stay 6 feet back. Lastly, shameless self-plug, follow me on Instagram at ifet.xyo, or just search up my name on Zoom. I wrote it in here, my full name. It'll come up. And on YouTube, at my name. I'll come up. And, well, thank you for listening. And if there are any questions, I will now be answering them. I'm not sure if you guys asked anything, though. I have to get back to the Zoom page. Okay, here we go. Oh, there are questions. Yay. Okay. Did you feel pressured to pursue music because you come from a musical family? I'm not going to say I felt pressured, per se, but it was just kind of, you know how every family has their thing, like some families, you have to do math and science and English and all that, and we did too, but music was just something we did. It was just how it was going to be. And my mother always said that when we turn 18 and move out of her house, we can quit. I still haven't met that turn 18 or move out of her house thing, but I don't want to quit, so. How do you stay motivated to create during this time? That's actually a hard one. That's been something I've been juggling with as well. Something that is really helping me is I'm still actually taking lessons with my teacher. He's been very grateful or gracious. I don't know what the word is, but he's been very nice and has been teaching me over Zoom for free. So that's been very nice. So I have to practice. I can't not practice because he's gonna be very disappointed. What advice do you have for people looking to pursue a musical career? I'd say just do it, honestly. And with social media now, put yourself out there. Record yourself playing. Put it on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Snapchat, everything. It's really helpful. You never know who might see it. Just put yourself out there. That's all I can say. What do you think is the next step, not only for you, but for having people come together? Well, for me, I'm just trying to make it through school and graduate on time. But for having people come together, I am not sure what the future of classical music is going to look like, especially with COVID-19 now, because you can't really gather in spaces like a concert hall and perform in front of orchestras, at least for a while. I'm going to say probably until like at least the end of 2021. So I can't really answer that, but I hope that with the strides in technology we have made in the last 3 months, that someone will come up with a way for us to play together and just do everything we used to do, but online. How long have you been playing? Oh, hi Daniel, I know you. I've been playing for, I'm gonna say 14 years. I think I did the math right. Almost 14 years. When I turn 18, it'll be 14 years. How do you deal with racism in the classical music industry? I've been lucky enough that I haven't, okay, I have to wrap up soon. I will answer like 2 more questions. See what she said. Okay, well, I've been lucky enough to not actually get any direct racism. Like no one has done anything out of pocket to me yet. But I have a wonderful family and a support system I can lean back on whenever I'm feeling any type of way. I can call them, I can text them and be like, this is what happened. I would like to talk about my feelings, and then they can tell me either to say something back or to just suck this one up and then keep moving forward. And yeah, I'm gonna choose like 2 more questions to answer because there are a lot of these. Thank you. Do you feel you had to sacrifice, for lack of a better word, other activities, hobbies, or academic endeavors to pursue music? Yes and no. I don't know if you guys knew this, but I did ballet for 12 years. I was very into ballet. I just knew I was going to become a ballerina and all that. But then after the Sphinx competition, the cello started to take up a lot of time, and I didn't have time to do both ballet and cello. And they're both very expensive hobbies, so I couldn't really do both. So I think that's the only time in my life where I really had to sacrifice anything, because, yeah. And then 1 more question, and then I will finish up. Realistically, is classical music a path that you can only pursue from a young age, or is it possible for anyone to be a classical musician? I say, will it definitely be easier if you start at a younger age? Yes, it's gonna be easier. But my old teacher, Hans Jensen, he didn't pick up a cello until he was 16 years old. And he's now one of the top cello teachers, at least in the Chicago area. I'm gonna say in the world because everybody knows him. But it will definitely be easier if you start at a younger age, but it's not impossible to start at any age and get where you wanna be. Just practice all day long. Okay, thank you guys for listening to me.